Welcome back. We are Outside the Box, an EMS podcast driving our clinical performance in and around the city of Sugar Land. And actually, we're going to start rolling in a whole lot more topics that aren't specific to clinical performance, but enhancing us as providers as we go. Today, we're going to talk about making decisions. Not good decisions, making decisions, some distinction with it. And joining me today, I'm very privileged to have with us, Battalion Chief Dutch Schultz. Dutch, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Before we dive too far into this, let's learn about Dutch a little bit. Like, where are you coming from? What kind of background are you speaking from when we talk about decisiveness?
So I have been in the fire service in Fort Bend County for right about 20 years. I've been around this area. I've been involved with this organization. I had my hands in it through the training side for a while now. And so I've gotten to know a lot about what it takes to make decisions personally for the benefit of people through training, and developing younger firefighters and things like that. So, yeah, that's kind of my background. I grew up in the area. I came from the Houston area. I've been here almost my whole life.
Like it. And as our new training director and professional development being a large component of the responsibilities placed on you, decisiveness seems to fit right on in, that this is something we need to develop in people. I, for one, and tell me if you disagree, that this is a unique skill set, but we can train it, we can hone it, we can make people better at it.
Absolutely. I think it's something that needs to be developed, right? So decisiveness, I guess by definition, is being able to make a decision quickly, quickly and confidently, right? So it doesn't say anything about correctly, but in having that confidence to make a quick decision, it does require a lot of training, technical training in what you're doing to be more confident that you are making the right decision, right? I think one of the things that holds us back from making a quick decision is being afraid of making a mistake. So if you can be more confident that you're not making a mistake, it'll make you quicker in acting.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you, right? When we talk about quick decision making, to reiterate, we're not talking about shooting from the hip, right? You're talking about drawing on experience. Right, this whole psychological concept is developing these gestalts, that we have thought frameworks that experience develops, and then we take new information, kind of plug it into this framework, and it spits out a result at the end. And right. That's experience. When it's, I've seen this before, I've seen something like it before, we can think through that a lot faster based on the experience. And we'll talk about experience and where we play in. And you gave us this definition of decisiveness. What are some personality attributes that you see enhancing decisiveness, going towards somebody effectively displaying good decision-making?
Well, competence, obviously, and confidence. So mixing those two. So making sure that you're competent enough at whatever the task you're performing will instill that confidence, and that will essentially make you quicker. We always say, slow is smooth, smooth is fast, right? So you start out slow, develop your skills, and that will in turn make you quicker, and that can be put into decision-making.
Yeah. I added in a sense of purpose, and we talked a little bit about this before we started rolling. I'll have you share some of the thoughts that we did earlier. But having this compass, having the sense of direction that without it, really, it's you make decisions. It's spinning wheels in the mud. Mm-hmm. That I can make one decision this direction and the next decision's going the other direction, and we're not getting any overall progress in any given direction. What are some of your thoughts about having that purpose and direction?
So, a lot of people look at our city mission statement as something that, maybe it gets thrown at you early on in your career, things like that, but that's really a group definition of where we're going, right? Or what our goal is on how we're going to make decisions. So the way I've been taught and have tried to practice making decisions with that is make your decisions in line with the mission statement, and it doesn't matter what we have written in policy procedure manuals, right? As long as you're making a decision, like our mission statement, relentless in the pursuit of good so that our employees, residents, and businesses can enjoy a life better than they can even imagine, right? That entails all the things we're taught about doing the right thing, on the most simplest terms, I guess. Mm-hmm. So if I'm making a decision in my day-to-day that is making someone's life better than they can imagine, then odds are you're doing the right thing. And if it's not in a policy or procedure manual, it probably should be, mm-hmm. right?
I'll go with that. And My wife always brought something home that she learned in some of her school programs as a school administrator that I think pertains to us, that we could be sued for anything. Especially EMS providers get a little worried about that. Yeah, sure, we could be sued for anything. Okay, EMS or not, we can be sued for anything. She's a teacher, by the way. If you're not familiar, go back to episode 3. That's her. That's Kathy. You sued for anything. And the best defense isn't, I followed the words on the page. She was always told, and I believe it, that you do what's in the best interest of the students, and you'll come out okay. It's not to say you're not going to get bumps and bruises along the way, the hassle of being looked into and having to answer questions, right? You'll come out okay on the other side. And I think we take that here we are with the citizens of this city, the residents, counting on us for a level of service, a level of responsiveness, and we can't put everything in the book.
Right.
So as long as you're making decisions centered towards what's best for that person who's counting on you for a level of service, at the very least, you're headed in the right direction.
Right.
So
and to that point, too, even all the way back to whoever's writing the pages in the book, that should be at the forethought of their mind, right? And, nobody's perfect, so we make mistakes or, we can do things better. So, but if you're writing those policies and procedures with that in mind, then we should all be moving in the same direction.
Yeah, and really, if one of these pages comes out and you look at it and think, what the hell is this garbage? Ask how this benefits the city. Why is this the procedure we're doing? Why are we going that direction? Because we don't all have the same perspective. And you deserve to have that perspective, but it's also on you that some of the small unit leadership kind of stuff is you got to ask why. If you don't understand why, it's also incumbent on you to go get that understanding too.
And from my short time here, the city and the department have made it very clear that this isn't an environment that's not afraid of change, right? So any idea from any level, if you see something that we can do better, it's been really ingrained in me in the last 2 weeks, right? That come up with something better. If not this, then what, right?
Yeah. Yeah, don't bring complaints, bring solutions. Yeah, So simple. Just go decide things, guys. We're done. Topic over, right? Not as easy as it sounds, Ryan.
Right.
We can talk about risk tolerance and risk management, because really that's what decision-making brings, is a risk of getting it wrong, right? Whatever that looks like. We make all kinds of terrible decisions, and there's a spectrum of consequences on the other side. So risk is really kind of that barrier. And one of the things I hear is, man, it's scary. What if I make the wrong decision? Dutch, I can't decide something, because what do I do if I don't have all the information? If I don't have all the answers, I can't decide anything. I can't decide.
Right. I mean, I would challenge anybody asking that. When was the last time that you made a decision in your professional or personal life that you did have all the information, right? I don't remember the last one.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to get a little comfortable with making information and know that you have been doing it to this point, right? So continue doing that. I think, you sent me a good article earlier about, not needing all the information to make decisions and kind of how to run with that. The other thing from the training standpoint and kind of what I'm coming into is I know that there's going to be people with some fears of, making a decision that's wrong in a training environment and what are we doing from there? And, training environment or real environment, yeah, there's more on the line in that, but what's the fear, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think inaction is worse.
I would agree, and I'll even say that inaction is a choice.
Absolutely.
That is an action choice, that if you do not make a choice for action, you have made your choice. Right. And let's be clear that sometimes taking no action is the good choice that you make. That is, I've evaluated the circumstances, we're going to hold position right here. Okay, very valid decision to make when it's intentional. But if you just let the situation decide for you, I see that is lacking some of the moral courage to face whatever consequences could come on the other side. And guys, you're going to screw it up. If you're raising children, trust me, you screwed it up already, right? And in reference to not having all the information, you get two siblings fighting. Did you really get all of the answers before you responded to those kids fight? Like, let's be honest, right? This article that you referenced about not having all the information is specific as something from the Marine Corps, something I learned, and it's called the 70% rule. And 70%, really, you go to school, and that's barely passing. Mm-hmm. Like, you skin of your teeth kind of stuff, right? C's get degrees kind of joking. But what this says, if you have 70% of the information, you have 70% of the resources, and you have 70% confidence in the plan in front of you, you're prepared to make a decision. And somebody's going to hear that and be like, holy crap, like, what? It's what it is, right? Operational tempo is a real thing. Situations progress and develop, and if we're not making timely decisions, we are falling behind op tempo, and it will never catch up. We have no choice at that point. So as we're talking about rapidly evolving decisions, we need to make it without that much information. And what I'll challenge you with is it doesn't have to be the one decision that fixes everything. Take small pieces, the whole how do you eat an elephant with one bite at a time. The more small decisions we make, the more progress we make, but the easier it is to make course adjustments.
Right.
If we make one huge decision in the wrong direction, we've got to come all the way back over. But if it's a couple small missteps on either side of the line, we're going the right way. And you had some thoughts on the perfect solution and picking the perfect response that you shared before we started. I can't remember who your quote is.
So I feel like there's like borderline plagiarism of ideas here with the Patton quote. So Patton said, "A good plan, violently executed now, is better than a perfect plan next week." And what's interesting, you brought this idea to have this podcast today, but we've talked about this exact quote, and I misquoted it probably terribly in the last week or two, but I looked it up, got it right. It's also interesting too, like, you have to take that first step, right? And a lot of people will have such a fear of making a decision or not making the perfect choice that they'll fail to act, right? And you said that's a choice. You're making a choice to where you could act and you're not. And whatever is drawing that, it's better to get moving down the road, right? Because you're already 10 steps ahead. If you need to course correct down the road, that's what we do, right? And in our business, we're having to constantly look at what's plan B and what's plan C. And really a lot in the company officer's role, on scene, you're having to stand back and take a look at what's going on and start making those plans, right? So it's happening already, And so I guess the challenge here is for those that are afraid to take action, get moving down the road, right? Usually there's no consequences for getting moving. Most of what we can do, we can correct. And, mistakes are going to be made. Like, let's be honest. I've made some, you've made some. Well, you haven't made it since I've been here.
Sure. I've made plenty. I am a subject matter expert on mistakes. I'm with you. And I think some of this fear comes out of the concept that there's one right decision to make, instead of the idea that there are multiple appropriate responses in a given case. And I mean, we see that in our clinical practice, that we have multiple options for pain management, that there are circumstances that make some options better than others given that situation. But there's not you will do this and here's what it is, pick the one right answer. Again, the answer is the one that's best for the person you're serving in front of you. And it's going to look different whether you're doing it, whether I'm doing it, somebody else is doing it. And that's what we want out of our people. We don't want lemmings. We don't want robots. We want human beings with care and compassion that can make decisions and encounter these circumstances and do something with it. Because honestly, the fire department we're the professional figure-it-outers. We have become this catch-all of everything. That somebody calls 911 and it's not, a civil disturbance, a criminal disturbance. Who do we send it? I don't know who this goes to. Send it to the fire department. Great. Hazmat, rescue, something's burning, somebody's sick, somebody's medications need to be preferred. Whatever. It all comes to us because we're that capable and able to do it.
Right.
And all of that back to the original point of, I think there's got to be the one right answer is kind of a fear generator. And I want to debunk it because there's people come in and ask me what my answer to a question is. And I'll tell you, I often will not tell you. You come in and it's, here's what we did on this case. What would you do? I often don't tell you what I would do. I wasn't there. That's armchair quarterbacking. Sounds like you had the patient in mind. You get good, sound decisions. The big thing with me with decisions is, what did you try to accomplish with a decision? And did you accomplish it? Right. What feedback told you did or didn't do it? Because there's going to be the one that says you didn't accomplish what you thought. And you're like, well, crap. Didn't go how I wanted. And the next thing is the next step. That's the important part. It isn't the one decision. It's the subsequent decisions with it.
Right. A lot of the greatest ideas that we have now, a lot of the practices that we have currently came from somebody trying something, right? Get out there and try something. And, you want that information. You want to know, did you try something that worked? Did you try something that didn't work? And it saves time, right? The next person, all right, we learned from that. Hey, here's a new technique, what I mean? In fire and EMS, in life, you want to have that information, and it saves you time. And, if you look back, it's how we got to where we are today, right? Everybody along the way made a bunch of mistakes. We figured some things out. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah. You got to be brave enough to suck at it. Like,
Yes.
don't be scared to give it a shot, and you suck. Right? I mean, raise teenage daughters, and you'll get really comfortable at choosing the wrong things a lot of times.
That's true.
I love my daughters. I give them a lot of hard time, but they're wonderful young ladies. There's a couple things. This book here, we'll even link it with there, is called Warfighting. It's a Marine Corps publication, and it's really basic doctrine to all Marines. And I think there's some good things I wanted to pull out of here. I've never pulled a book on the podcast before. I've referenced them. I've made notes from literature and books, but I've never pulled one out.
That's kicking ice.
Here. Oh, damn it. It is.
Did they do that in Illinois?
Yeah, we did. Oh, we did. Plenty of them. There's this one statement that I like here, that courage and fear are often situational. So when you're scared of making a decision, it's because there's something in that situation, right? And this says persistence under fire, experience doing it. Doing increases confidence, as well as some realistic training, and it lessens like the mystique of the situation when we're doing it wrong. So expose yourself to those situations, demystify it, and we get more comfortable rolling through it, right?
Right.
So I wanted to make sure I mentioned that before we got too far from it. As far as we talk about not having all the information, there's a whole chapter on uncertainty is what I'm reading from. Uncertainty. We can never eliminate uncertainty, so we have to learn to fight effectively despite it. We'll never have all the information. We're dealing with other human beings, so the predictability, out the window. The script that they're supposed to follow on my patient assessment, because that's how it went in school, out the window, right? We've got to get in and do and adapt and be flexible, nimble on our feet with it.
You talk about the experience in there too. I think it makes a big difference in what you can do with that 70%, right? So if I have a lot of repetitions in a certain aspect of what you're doing, it'll make that 70% more valuable. It'll make 60% more like 70%, right? And another example that we use is information, right? So information gets put out to varying degrees. Everybody complains there's not good enough communication in every organization I've ever been a part of, right? So, but what do we do with a lack of information? We infer it, right? Mm-hmm. We make it up, whether we're at the kitchen table or we're having a conversation, and it's like, well, they're probably going to do this, and somebody hears that, and they're like, oh, they're going to do this, and then it turns into a game of telephone, right? So we're already inferring that information, and that needs to go into your decision making, right? I need to infer from experience. I've seen this situation before, and so I'm going to make a decision based on what I've seen before, assuming it's going to act similarly. And mm-hmm. then when you get down the road and you see something, whether it's, a change in vitals or it's a change in smoke conditions or things like that points you in a different direction, then it's like, all right, let's make an adjustment here, right?
Yeah. And I think that's where we get that comfort changing course. Smoke conditions change. For the love of God, say something. Don't just wait and we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. And then here we are in a flashover because we didn't say, hey, I don't think something's going the way we're supposed to. We need to adjust decisions. Right. And we kind of boil this down and make it sound like a really simple thing. Just keep making decisions. Don't be scared. Dutch, just decide. Whatever. It'll happen. It is a disciplined, intentional thing. Right. And what I'll tell you is the more decisions you make intentionally, the more practice you get. So take some of these low consequence ones. Hey, where do you want to go get dinner? Right? There's a couple options. It's probably going to be unlikely I end up somewhere that doesn't have food, and I love food. I'm a big fan of it. Mm-hmm. So those decisions matter. Right. So when it's, hey, where do you want to go eat dinner? It's, I don't know, whatever you want. No, whatever you want. No, whatever you want. Nobody's got the courage to just say, I want this tonight. That's what we're going to do. We're going to go eat that. This is where we're going to lunch today. Right? That's a very small microcosm, low consequence example of what we're talking about every day. And you show up on a fire scene and it's, I don't know, what do you think? Hey.
Right. You can push them in a direction too, or push yourself in a direction. Maybe the first step to getting better at being decisive is instead of saying, I don't know, and leaning on the negative, just, well, what about this? Mm-hmm. Throw something out there, right? What about we try this? Have you thought about this? What do we think about? And that kind of pushes you, almost you're leaning forward versus leaning backward.
I like it. And it invokes some imagination, which is a note I put down here, is how we get better at developing the context we decide from, like you had mentioned. is play the what if game. Make a decision, you move through, look back at it. Don't discount the experience. Look back at it. Did you like how it went? Did it go how you thought it would go? What if you put this other thing in? How do you think it would have gone? Those kind of neural connections grow playing the what if game, and it builds on the experience you have that you're drawing from. It makes thinking faster, easier, because we've enhanced the experience, right? Some other things. Let's talk about some more things to develop this. That we have young providers, we have young leaders, we have experienced seasoned leaders with seasoned crews, with young crew. We got the gamut all over the place. Other than saying, Dutch, go decide now, what are some things we do from a leadership perspective to foster this?
I mean, I think empowering, from an officer standpoint, empowering your younger members to start developing those decision-making abilities. You said the low-hanging fruit, the decisions that maybe don't have as much weight. What would you do here? Or, let them make some of these decisions. What are we eating for dinner? Where are we sitting at the table? Whatever it is. And then building some trust to where it's like, all right, well, when we get on scene, I mean, you're a paramedic. What are you thinking? Where are we going? Let them, it's kind of like we rely a lot on, and I do this too, and especially, going to and from in the Sugar Land area. I've grown up here my whole life within Fort Bend County in the area, but I still getting from X station to City Hall or getting from here to there. What do? I pull it up on the map because I'm like, what's the quickest way? Like I can get there, everything's Highway 6, right? So everybody relies on a decision maker forum a lot of times in your GPS, right? But in developing your people, I'll use that as try to go somewhere without the map, right? And allow somebody, like the map in this instance would be the officer, right? The officer is the one telling you what to do. Let your people make some decisions, and let them play out too, because the challenge is having enough confidence as an officer to let them make a mistake. And, if it's not going to kill somebody, obviously, like let it play out. This is why. And you learn more from the bad decisions than you do the good, right? Everything, we can high five all day, but you're never going to forget the mess ups you have and those core memories that you build.
Yeah. I'm really glad you put that catch on there of letting it play out. That it's really easy for me to have a decision in my mind that I want to happen. I'm like, well, what do you think, Dutch? Nope, not that one. Not that one. Right. Yes, that's the answer I want you to say. But now you're a decision maker because you chose what I wanted in the first place. That's a hard thing to do from a leadership perspective, especially if we have younger leaders, younger officers. You're like, oh, everybody's watching me. I'm new. How am I going to do with it? And the response is, well, the company screwed that up, and why? It's on you. It's, well, I'll let my firefighters make decisions, and that's what we're going to go with. And one more item from the book that goes right into it is that we cannot rightly expect our subordinates to exercise boldness and initiative in the field when they're accustomed to being over-supervised in garrison, which is our routine everyday knock hammer operators. So if we are, like you said, like we're hounding these decisions, we're not giving the opportunity to choose and let it play out. We show up on the fire ground, we show up on the massive wreck, whatever it is, simple single patient EMS call, and we look to somebody to make the decisions because it should be your responsibility, and they're paralyzed with the inability to make decisions. Right. It's worth looking at how do we contribute to that. So,
yeah, I think it's really it's a culture shift too. I've been familiar with a bunch of departments in the area, and everybody's kind of got their levels of this, right? We all do things a little better or a little worse. And so in some of the departments I've experienced, early in my career, we had 2 people on a truck. And so by default, you had to make more of the decisions because you were looking back and it's like a mirror, right? Nobody here, like it's me, right? So that automatically empowered you. And there's some downsides to that too. But, as you get more built out and as more people are there making the rules and telling you what to do and this and that, you rely on that, right? And so being comfortable with also from below asking your supervisor, hey, I really want to get better at this. Can I try something new? Or have you thought about that? Really having a two-way relationship that way is a big way to help.
Yeah, and I think the word relationship, we've talked about it plenty in all kinds of episodes. I think that's a key component to it from the leadership end also. Instead of just you guys make decisions, go, and it's, running the house by committee isn't the suggestion we're making. Right. It'd be, hey, you're going to be in charge of these things today. Here's the things we need to accomplish. make a schedule for them, see what resources you need. Do we need to get something, or we have what we need? You over here, you're going to decide food. You're the food person. I want to eat. Here's the times we're going to eat in the day. The rest is your decisions. So the leadership end really comes with that. That's the development. The active development component isn't just, hey, decide things and I'll let you play it out how it goes, is identifying these bundles of opportunities and giving somebody, and that's the empowering part in my mind, is, hey, here's your set of decisions to make. Go for it. Let me know what you need. Do you need resources? Make sure it's in line with this policy. We're doing something in this direction. Make sure it's following these rules. Let me know what you think. And like you said, that hardest part is letting things play out, is being okay when it's not how you would have done it. Right. That was one of the for me personally, I'm going to say me personally, was a major maturity point. And it was like the next chapter thing. It was like the next stage of professional life when I got over the hump of, oh crap, somebody chose something I didn't choose. And man, has it been enabling, so that now we can take captains who are clinical supervisors, and I can pour into them in their decision making and giving them the purpose and the parameters and my expectations of them, so that now we have 3 different people making good clinical decisions, so that when another 5 other medic crews call these 3 separate people for decisions, what I'm hoping happens at the end of the line is in the direction of what I want happening. And that is why I don't say, here's what I would have done, because I don't need somebody hearing you did it wrong because you didn't do it like the chief did.
Right.
Because that's I'm not invalidating you, but it's a really difficult thing to step back. It's also very hard watching somebody struggle through their choices when you have had that experience. Again, welcome back to parenting, where your teenagers know everything and they don't need you for anything because we were never teenagers. It's hard to watch that struggle, but that's where their growth happens. Let them make those decisions. Let them realize their feedback mechanisms and grow from it.
I think we also have to be mindful too, as you trickle up in ranks, like we're responsible for it too, right? And a lot of how we default depends on how we came up and our experience and leaders that we've had. And, I've had some bad ones that, micromanaging and not empowering me to make decisions along the way. And then I've had some great ones, and we try to emulate that. The other thing that I was thinking is tradition has created some informal ranks as well, right? And so it really, I like to stress the importance of the senior firefighter, right? The senior person in the house and the amount of influence that they have. And, in our history, in the fire services history, they did a lot of things right. They did a lot of things right, but they didn't have all the books. They didn't have YouTube. They didn't have all the, and, somewhere along the way, some of the things we've seen and have carried on and some have not. And then you do research and it's like, man, we got away from doing certain things that they used to do. They had it figured out, but they didn't know they had it figured out. It just worked, right? It was trial and error. And it's kind of like we talked through their progression. And as the fire service has grown, they've had plenty of trial and error, right? And it's like, we kind of do everything in cycles, right? So we'll come back around. It's like, yeah, that senior firefighter was really important, So, and just one example, right?
I agree with that 100%. And in fact, we didn't have drivers up in the department I was in. We didn't have a designated driver rank, right? But we did have that senior person, and it was the unofficial official person. We called him our barn boss. And lieutenant had their responsibilities. Station captain had their responsibilities. But that barn boss was in charge of what happened in the day. That here's the station duties we're doing today. They were responsible for making sure they were done. They got first right of refusal on cooking food. I don't feel like cooking today. Here you go. So I think you're absolutely right that informal leadership just has such a profound value to all of this as well. Right. So, and with that, if you have been around for a while and you say, well, I don't want to be a leader, I don't want to be a role model, tough crap. Like, you are one. People are watching you and people are emulating your behavior, and it is incumbent upon you in this organization to make sure we are somebody worth emulating. You don't have to promote. You don't have to go through ranks. But somebody younger is looking at you for what appropriate behavior is and appropriate mindset and appropriate way to view our job. So
absolutely.
Just because you don't want to be doesn't mean you're not. And you have an impact on somebody either way. is impact in the right direction.
Right. In my transition here, I'm kind of realizing that myself, and some of my growth too is I'm surrounded by a lot of faces that I don't recognize. I've got relationships here, but in meeting and building new relationships, I have to keep that in mind that, I may not see somebody but once a year. So that's their perception of me comes from a small percentage of who I actually am. So if I mess up in this 5-minute interaction, that's 100% of the time they saw me. So it's really for all of us to know, all of us to get better at.
Man, Dutch, I've really enjoyed having this discussion. Any last minute thoughts you want to throw in there before we close out? Get to say all you wanted to say?
No, I think that's it. I think that the kind of bringing everything all back together, I hope that in our organization, we can develop leaders at every level that are not afraid to make decisions. There's no decision police out there that are coming in and trying to really scold you for making the wrong decision. And, the biggest thing to touch on that you were talking about earlier is inaction is a decision, right? And make it a decision. Have the maturity to, if inaction is the choice, it's my choice, right? It's not because I'm afraid to make a decision. It's not because I don't know what I'm doing and I'm stalling. Build your proficiency, get the experience, and be prepared to make every decision we're going to have to do.
Yeah. It was Stu Smith, I believe is his name, is a Navy SEAL. And I heard him say it on some TV show, and I stole it, that we need to get comfortable being uncomfortable. That's just the nature of our business. So we talked about things could be scary, and there's some risks. Sure, yeah. Right? We develop this kind of risk tolerance and this capability to navigate risk because we do the uncomfortable things. So if you're waiting for it to be comfortable, situation's gone. Opportunities are gone. Choices are gone when we're waiting for it to be comfortable. So don't wait till it's comfortable. All right? Be comfortable. Be comfortable being uncomfortable. And again, for our company officers, look for these opportunities to give someone. If you're a company officer, you've already had a good number of years making some decisions, find your opportunities to practice and get better, but grab that young person and give them some inconsequential decisions to make. Let them have that practice. Our experience, my experience up north, is that our paramedics blew the promotional exams out of the water. The top third of the list was always paramedics because they're doing more high-stakes decision-making on a regular basis. It's all that experience, it's that practice. So look for those opportunities, make those decisions, get involved in additional projects around here, around anywhere. Those are opportunities for decisions. Dutch, I really appreciate your time today. Thanks for coming on and sharing your thoughts.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Looking forward to many more.
All right. Well, thanks for listening in. We'll catch you for the next one.